What's up, everybody? Dr. Josh here over at Strength Ritual, and today we are going to talk about things you might experience while achieving exotic leanness, as Dr. Mike over at RP has coined. Now, for this, that's around low single-digit body fat percentages for males, 5 or so percent, could be a little higher, could be a little lower, and around 12% for females, cross striations everywhere, ab veins, various other things. We're going to take a look at the psychological effects and things that impact psychology encountered during this process. It's not exhaustive, just some things that came to mind. And then also some strategies on how to mitigate this to the best of your ability. They are still going to exist and still going to happen. But how do we sort of tamp that down so that we're not experiencing just a whole bunch of negative emotionality and just disturbance? But yeah, let's get to the episode. So, number one thing that I think everyone experiences is a decent amount of low energy. Now, the degree to which you experience this probably also has to do with the number of times that you've gotten exotically lean or approached exotic leanness, so that could be different for everybody. But most people, I think, will agree that low energy levels are going to be a thing that you experience. Your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that is going to decrease. Now, this is anything outside of your general exercising, cardiovascular work. This is how often you sort of bounce your leg up and down, how often you fidget, how much you sort of randomly are drawn to get up and move, various things like that. Again, not like structured or formalized exercise, just, generally how much you fidget and move around. So that activity will decrease greatly, probably due to energy availability and being so low in body fat and your hormones being in the tank. You might be visibly slower. Like you might move around slower. You might feel slow. You might appear sluggish and just off-putting to everybody around you. I think Lane Norton has a story about this. It's a great story that it sticks in my mind because it didn't exactly happen to me, but I felt so much. So his is called It's the Remote Story. And I think he was sitting on a couch and the remote was just outside of arm's reach. And there was a shitty commercial on the TV, something he didn't want to watch. And because the remote was out of arm's reach, he didn't change the channel. That is the type of low energy we were talking about. Whenever we're talking exotic levels of leanness, you're not going to want to scooch over to pick up the remote. So you might experience some low energy like that. The deeper into a deficit you get, the leaner you get, the more striations, although motivating, the more striations you get. But I think over the course of a training career, as this progresses, it gets better. It certainly gets better. So, you're going to have to dip your toes in the fire and come back out and dip in, dip out. You can get deeper and deeper and deeper. And as you go, and I think sort of the fall off here is a lot of people, myself included, go a little too deep maybe that first time. And then also, we don't have a way to sort of reel ourselves in. We don't maintain contact with our coaches. We don't have sort of a back out plan. But that's for further down. So low energy. Number 2, sleep disturbance. You're not going to sleep well. Multiple reasons, various, I'm sure hormones come into play here, but also odd thing, the leaner you get, you're going to start to you're going to freeze. It's a really interesting experience that it could be 80 in your house and you're still shivering a little. That's a really odd experience. I don't know that that's everybody's experience, but you don't have any body fat to keep any of the heat in. You're no longer insulated. So you're going to be cold. So sleep's going to be kind of uncomfortable. So you're going to want to make sure you have lots of blankets there. But then also something else that I think gets talked about is like hunger. Holy shit, your hunger is going to be so much more. Ghrelin and leptin are going to be off. Your hunger signaling, your satiety signaling, all that's going to be thrown off towards the end of a diet. And you're just going to be hungry. And your body's going to be like, hey, wake up. And you're going to be like, why? And it's going to be like, well, you're starving. And I'm like, I know. And it's just going to keep pestering you until you do. And you're not going to be able to sleep so well. And so you're going to be hungry, and that is going to produce possibly some sleep disturbance as well. And then also, considering something like cortisol and how that sort of follows a natural kind of circadian rhythm, just sort of the variability throughout the contest prep or the very extended periods of dieting, that probably probably, it's the best guess. It's not me as a professional saying this, it's probably the best guess, but that seeing as how it does sort of follow a natural circadian rhythm, probably would be thrown off too. So contribute to sleep disturbance. Number 3, digestive issues due to low and or high fiber, and just not much food volume in general. So your bowel movements, poop. We're going to talk about poop on the channel. Those will become a thing of the past. Not really, but you might start out pooping 1 or more times in a day. By the butt end of a contest preparation diet, it could be every other day, could be every third day. That could be a fiber issue, could just be a low volume issue, but bowel movements will do funny things. And then similarly, I think we all, we're all human. we will find a way, we will try to find a way to combat hunger in whatever way we can. I think for most of us, it's like, finding those 0-calorie foods, trying to work that in, trying to find the high fiber foods. And so if you see your fiber sort of creeping up past the, 15-ish for dudes, around 15 grams per 1,000 calorie mark, maybe you need to back down a little bit. I've seen my fiber approach, up over 100 in certain instances with the amount of cruciferous vegetables, and then high fiber, the oats, and high fiber breads, and fiber, which might cause a little bit of gastric distress. So a little bit of discomfort there. If you can process it, I don't know that your workouts are going to be necessarily fueled as best as they could. But if you're satiated, fine. But at a certain point, you are going to be hungry, and sort of making room for some of that difficult feeling might be a better bet than just seeing if you can cram in your 8th cup of cruciferous vegetables to sort of stave off the hunger demons. It's a trade-off. So figure out what works for you. But digestive issues are a possibility. Number 4, my favorite, mood disturbance. Actually, low energy. Mood disturbance. Yeah. I think, honestly, if you're, that classic metaphor of your fuse getting shortened, I think that's just it. Irritability goes up. I think the research clearly shows in the few bodybuilding studies that are actually out there, some irritability, low mood, concentration difficulty. I think those are sort of the things that you see in those studies. And it's something that I've experienced. So just pulling from my own experience, at that time last time I prepped, I was managing a gym and working at a supplement store. And, I wasn't the most cheerful. I think a lot of that was low energy, and the low mood, but the irritability, like my fuse was like, I didn't have as much patience as I would have had I not been, deep into a contest diet. So you might experience some mood disturbance, some low mood, again, irritability, and you might not be able to concentrate. Well, you might be able to concentrate, but it's on what time's your next meal. Oh my God, it's more than 2.5 hours away. How can I have it now? Things like that. Your focus will maybe shift away from the present moment, which I feel like is a skill that we'll be working on in the channel, and onto food in the future. So food focus and mood disturbance, those are sort of hand in hand. And then number 5, anhedonia. That's a big fancy therapeutic word for not enjoying the same shit you used to. So yeah, you might not enjoy, like let's say you enjoyed, going out with friends, or, going to parties, or going to this, or going that, or woodworking or something like that. Your energy might be so in the tank that you no longer want to do those things. Like back to Lane's story about how, you might have enjoyed watching Netflix, but the energy, the energy it takes to move around, to grab the remote and sort of maneuver to watch it, it just might be too much. You might just like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to rock back and forth. So you might not enjoy the same stuff. Now, this is sort of an insidious thing, because this sort of gets into, if you enjoyed a lot of family and friend time, chances are they enjoyed that time with you too. So what are you going to do about that? And we'll talk about that some. And then this sort of ties in there, moving right on to number 6, social isolation. In my experience, and in people I've seen, worked with, could be energy availability, could be meal structure, could be sleep disturbance. So thinking back to my contest prep, my last one, so like sleep disturbance, that disrupted me socially, because I was in bed, 7, 8 o'clock, because I would get up so early. And that's sort of the way my meals are structured too. And obviously I was privileged enough, like I could structure my job around that too, but going to bed at like between 7 and 8, I mean, who are you socializing with? Like, I mean, I didn't work anywhere near an assisted living facility, but them and toddlers, those are the only people that I know are going to bed around 7 or 8. And so your sleep will sort of throw off your socializing back over to meal structures where you could used to have meals with a spouse, with friends going out. If you're deep enough, or if you're exotically lean, and your meals are such that they are structured every sort of 3 or 4 hours apart, and they are very specific meals to sort of maintain that exotic leanness, you're probably going to be, there's a good chance that you're going to be in your sort of your flow and your rhythm, and that doesn't necessarily intersect a lot with socializing. It could be. There are a lot of dedicated people out there who I think sort of have this in the forefront of their mind, and this isn't for them. This is for the people who are sort of looking to sort of shift their learning curve and to anticipate some of the things that could happen while getting exotically lean. And one of the things is eating meals at particular times, maybe sort of shifting those around. And then again, energy availability, not wanting to get up to move a remote probably means you're not going to want to drive over to a friend's house. So thinking about that, you very well could isolate yourself, and not meaning to, you just don't have the energy to. So what are some things that we can do about it? So as far as sleep goes, developing good sleep hygiene, fancy therapy stuff. It really just develop a good routine around sleep. And so what might that look like? Let's see here. Maybe no screens an hour before bed. You might want to cut liquids out around 1 to 2 hours, especially when you're deep into a diet. Your carbs are depleted, your glycogen's depleted. You don't have the ability to hold as much water, and so water just sort of goes through you. So if you are to reduce the volume of water that you would have closer to bedtime, that would keep you from getting up and urinating, just waking yourself up. And then just honestly, there were a couple times where I'm just like, oh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm awake now after using the bathroom. And so sort of modulating that fluid intake towards the end of the day, very beneficial. And then also as far as like digestive things, keeping you awake, having your last meal, depending on the size. I mean, if it's a small meal, maybe no impact on sleep, but having your last meal, a couple hours before bed, that also helps with sort of, the hormones that sort of get regulated around bedtime. Number 2, strategic caffeine use. I think this is sort of for the sleep disturbance aspect. Like, yes, I think caffeine use, I think if we polled or tracked, I might do that study. I think if we track contest preparation or getting exotically lean, I really do believe caffeine consumption in the form of coffee or energy drink, that just sort of linearly goes up with the steepness in the deficit. So as you go deeper into your deficit, the caffeine consumption probably goes up. But being strategic with your caffeine use, having a cutoff time is something that I like to do. So my cutoff time for caffeine is like 2 o'clock, and I tend to go to bed. I have toddlers, mind you. I still go to bed around 8 or 9, so that's just a weird nuance to my life. But having the caffeine cutoff between 1 and 2 o'clock really makes it to where I haven't noticed differences in my sleep, nor has my sleep tracking bed. So could it be better? Possibly, but it doesn't seem to disturb me currently. Something to experiment with. Over to the fiber thing. The fiber to go along with sort of digestive issues and diet disturbance, just, a simple heuristic of around like 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. I believe that might just be for males, so I would double check that for females, but 15 grams per 1,000 calories is sort of a good heuristic that I found. And number 4, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So understanding that, sort of in cognitive behavioral therapy, we have these 3 things. We have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They all interact and impact each other. And I think in that world, most people think thoughts lead to feelings, lead to behaviors, but what you need to do is sort of invert that and understand that also behaviors impact the way we think and feel. So like the first time we got into the gym, or the first time you get into the gym, after, a couple months, you'll notice like, oh my God, I feel so good. I feel great. I feel good about my body image, my self-esteem goes up. I feel really good about getting into the gym. And that first started with taking those first steps to getting into the gym and creating those habits and behaviors. I think a lot of people wait sort of on motivation to get them going on things. But if you invert it and focus on beginning, whatever the behavior is, the smallest increment of that behavior, just beginning, that can lead to better thoughts and feelings, which will lead to possibly better mood and help with some of the low mood, the irritability, and other things we see with dieting and getting exotically lean. And then number 5, I think this is sort of a general thing that helps with most goals and most times in our life, but having goals and values in alignment. So having particular values for this phase of dieting. What can you do as far as, so like goals that I've had in deeper phases of dieting? Challenge. I enjoy challenge. I am doing this to be challenged. And, sometimes going and seeing family and friends can be challenging. Now, if I'm living sort of in alignment with those values, I will pick up the reins and I will go and I will push myself to see family and friends in those moments. Because one, I know that my behaviors will lead to sometimes better thoughts and feelings. And then also, to be aligned with my values, I must pursue things that are, somewhat challenging at times when I am under, a great amount of physiological stress from being so lean. Also valuing like progression, and wisdom. Wisdom's one of my personal core values. Understanding what is and isn't in your control can really help to mitigate some effects of negative thinking and thoughts that might sort of crop up as you get deeper and deeper into a contest diet. So, if you're ready to set a particular goal and you'd like that to be your first bodybuilding show, if you weren't happy with your first bodybuilding show, you want to prep for your second bodybuilding show, the OCB Mind Muscle Classic, April 19th, 2025, Huntington, West Virginia. Go to the OCB website, sign up for the show. Why not? Do it. Come see me. Come say hi. But you and a friend, sign up for the show. It's more than enough time. At the time of this video, it's probably close to a year and a half out. You have enough time to put on muscle, get a coach, do a good bit of dieting, and step on stage and make some real change. Again, like, subscribe, and share. And for all of you, take what's useful and leave the rest. I'll see you next time.